Welcome back, everyone. It's John Pollock here alongside John Ramdeen and Robin Black. The UFC is off this weekend, so all of our focus is going ahead to UFC 209, an event that you two will be in Las Vegas, correct?
Yeah, super cool. Very excited. Because when you think about, the main event, the rematch, a very interesting rematch between Wonderboy and the champion, Tyron Woodley. The heavyweight encounter between the former Strikeforce champion, actually two former K1 champions, Alistair Overeem and Mark Hunt, and a very interesting matchup at 155 pounds with Khabib and Tony Ferguson. So very cool stuff happening at 209.
Yeah, it's going to be a good week down there. This fight is the one I'm most interested in. I'm working on a breakdown right now. Me and Jeff and James are working on it all week long. And so you go in and you watch all the stuff. You watch all the fights, and they're just so different. And sure, every fighter's an individual, and every coach has a different game plan, but that's to a certain degree. But these guys are
super unique.
Different. Yeah, they're both unique from everybody else they fight. They have different ideologies. And it is going to be a fascinating one. The way that they match up, one guy has a very distinct sort of very ravenous need to acquire a certain position, and the other one's like, hey man, let's do it anywhere. And just that alone, that ideology is very different.
When you think of the matchup between those two, do you believe that Khabib has more than one path? Because I think if we think of Ferguson, he has a multitude of different ways that he could win this fight, where Khabib, it seems, one assignment, get to those hips, put his guy on the ground, and beat them up there, either submit him or just get the TKO.
There's been a couple of performances when you look back at Khabib's career where he was forced to fight on the feet, and it doesn't look all that great. And I know Gleason Tebow or Ryan Pat Healy, those are a while back, and he's gotten a lot better. But go watch those fights out in the open field when you're not able to take somebody down. That's not where Khabib shines. He did edge those out, and RDA as well. There was a little more wrestling in the RDA fight. But those are three fights where he didn't look that great. Then on the other hand, when he gets his way, he destroys everybody. So if you're him, you have a distinct path that you are committed to. There are comparisons. I know this is going to sound way out in left field, but there's comparisons to how people went and said, how do you beat Ronda Rousey? You beat her up outside and you don't let her get in on your hips and you don't let her take you down. It's the same plan. It's the same game. It's just way harder, way harder.
Do you feel that adds some intrigue to this? Not that there isn't any shortage of it for this fight, but seeing Khabib in his last fight when he took on Michael Johnson back at UFC 205. I mean, that was a fight where, we had seen this guy literally just running through people, taking them down. And in that fight, he got touched up a lot before he just took that fight over using those strengths that Robin just outlined. I think that's really fascinating to watch. What can Tony Ferguson take from that? Because with Ferguson, we saw him vulnerable against Lando Venata in that first round, which was a crazy round, and then he comes back against RDA, and that was one of the best performances of his career.
And you look at the positives that you got to take out of those fights. With the Venata fight, Tony Ferguson, you can't underestimate anybody, and he understands that. With Khabib, for example, he can take the punches from Michael Johnson, get through that, be outclassed in that area, and still find his path to get in and play his game. So both guys can take positives over those kind of bad moments.
Yeah, and both guys had that last-minute fight against an unknown. And both guys did well. Tony fought the way that Tony fights, freewheeling, and we've seen since how good Venata is.
Why isn't Lando Venata fighting Daryl Horton?
Yeah,
I know.
Kidding.
That was
that
the
writes
fight to make.
Exactly.
He's on the main card.
Yeah, there's the logic. I'm pretty excited to see Lando fight in Las Vegas as well. This is a very, very interesting fighter. But unlike our old school thinking of wrestler versus striker or whatever, there's so much more that happens now. It isn't just, it used to be keys to victory, get the takedown, or the keys on the other side, keep it standing. The how is very much more complicated than that now. It's no longer, cool, the old keep it standing. What you have to do is there are different ranges and different elements and different rhythms and timing that are happening between where Khabib is and where he wants to be. And that complex game, he plays very differently. So yes, when he gets a little closer to you, there are ranges and moments within that fight where he chooses not to strike because he is in a position to get all the way in. That rhythm is very different, and it's something you have to understand, and you don't want to be understanding it when he's on you right here. fighter, you know, where Abel Trujillo or somebody like that was like, oh man, I'll just keep this guy, what the, and he's on you. That understanding of how he does that is complicated and that is fascinating. And Tony's got a different understanding of that space, but the how of both of them achieving what they want is what's so
super cool.
You know, one thing we always see with Tony Ferguson as well, a lot of people, you're preparing for Nurmagomedov and you're taken down and you're put on your back, they look at that as a problem. For Tony Ferguson, there is a whole world off of his back that he's been able to create, and I'm sure with the likes of Eddie Bravo, they're looking at a situation like that, okay, we're on our back. Now that can be our world too. It's not just Nurmagomedov controlling us on top. I mean, there's just so many different
I love
areas.
it. I love it.
Yeah, so that is what is fascinating about it is Khabib absolutely wants to achieve X. And Tony, sure, it'd be great if I don't let him achieve X because I can smash him up out here in Y and Z. But even if he achieves X, they want to believe that in that position they have options. He smashes guys from guard. Hard to get and keep guard with Khabib because he passes so aggressively. He also goes into weird, unfamiliar positions. He attacks in strange areas. And for Khabib to get in, he must pass through this area that Tony loves to snap you down and start working his Darce game. So the how, he sets traps
Super
on the
dangerous.
how too. Yeah, it is one of the most fascinating fights that I've had the pleasure of going in and doing the deep dive.
Well, why do
on
you think
for
a lot
sure.
of, like, it seems that only hardcore fans are talking about how interesting this fight is? Why do you believe that is?
I think that is our fault. The way the way that we've presented the UFC, everybody trickling down. We have done the low-hanging fruit of, you know, boom, the winner gets a title shot in the ad, and everything is like, oh, knockout power, and you know, and everything is about the hype and to sell these are the low-hanging fruits when you try to sell people on stuff, and we have done that in this world for so long that we have underachieved in the area of making people see these dynamics. People watch soccer, you know. A lot of people watch soccer. There's no goals in soccer. There's no anything in soccer, and they love it because soccer in its lifetime have made people have a relationship with the teams and a relationship with the game itself. That's what has to happen in fighting, and it is happening.
It just feels that the UFC, it can be both. You have Khabib with the hat wrestling a bear, and you have El Kukui with the sunglasses. That seems
John
to
Ramsey
be.
simplification, always
You're
my favorite,
telling me
yeah.
if you don't put that, if you put a promo like that together, that's not going to generate even more interest.
Guys, I know you're all watching a soccer game, but this dude's wearing a hat in here.
It wrestles a bear.
The wrestling the bear, it is hard to deny that one. But you're right. In a perfect world, now I know Demetrius Johnson, the world is all, hey, how come you don't sell pay-per-views? It's because we don't tell the real story. You know, we're not telling the real story. The real story is the story of combat, the story of the complex beauty of
Do people want that? Do the masses want that?
They like soccer. You know what I mean? It's not like this would be, this is something crazy. You mean
Everybody's
complex
played soccer,
dynamic? Though. Yeah, sure. Everybody's been punched in the face when they were 4 years old.
I don't know.
It's scary. But we can do it. And using Demetrius as the perfect example, this is perfection in an art form and in an athletic endeavor and in combat. And it is, and as Matt and Demetrius have talked to the UFC along the lines, hey, anything you want us to do? And some of the conversation has been, just keep winning. It's our job to educate the audience to the point that they have a curiosity and a fascination with the game itself. Because a Tony Ferguson versus a Khabib Nurmagomedov is a fascinating mixture of two of the great fighters with different concepts and different skills and different goals, and it is a spectacular fight.
All right, it's going down next weekend, Saturday night, March the 5th. It's UFC 209 for the interim lightweight championship.